The subway was unusually crowded that Thursday evening. But for Emily Harper, it was just another blur in her long string of uninspiring days. Dressed in a faded gray coat, her backpack frayed at the edges, and earbuds tucked in though no music played, Emily had perfected the art of invisibility. At 28, she worked 2 part-time jobs in New York City, barely making rent on a showbox apartment in Queens. Each day blended into the next. Each commute felt like a silent war against despair. That night, she stood quietly between 2 poles, eyes downcast, arms crossed, trying not to bump into the man beside her who smelled strongly of aftershave. The train screeched into 59th Street and jolted violently as it stopped. A woman with a stroller stumbled while getting off, and something fell to the floor, rolling slightly under Emily's feet. It was a small, scruffy, stuffed dinosaur. Something about it, its missing eye, the loose threads around its neck, made Emily pause. She knelt down and picked it up, holding it gently like a wounded bird. The woman was already out the door, lost in the river of bodies flowing up the station stays. Emily looked at the toy, thinking of her own childhood in Iowa, how she'd once clung to a tattered lamb her grandmother gave her. After her mom's overdose, that lamb was the only thing that made her feel safe. She could have left it there, could have shrugged it off as just another piece of the city's daily chaos. But she didn't. That night, instead of going home, Emily got off at the next stop. She walked back through the station, hoping to catch a glimpse of the woman, the child, anyone searching. No one. She posted a picture of the toy on Twitter and Instagram. Found this on the downtown F train around 6:15 p.m. Anyone missing a tiny dinosaur? She added the hashtags #LostToyNYC and #FTrainFind. She didn't think much would come of it. Who even sees those posts? But by morning, her phone had exploded. The image had gone viral. Thousands of likes, shares, and comments poured in. Strangers wrote, "This reminds me of my daughter's favorite bunny," or "How kind of you to try returning it." Others began sharing their own lost and found stories. One woman even commented, "I was suicidal once, and someone finding and returning my purse changed everything. Thank you for being someone's miracle today." Emily sat at her tiny kitchen table, stunned. A local reporter messaged her for an interview. A children's therapist shared the post, writing, "Objects like this represent emotional anchors for children in trauma. Returning it could be life-changing." Emily blinked at the screen. Life-changing? She started thinking about the toy more seriously. She went back to the 59th Street station every evening that week. She held up a sign with a picture of the dinosaur, asking passers-by if they recognized it. Most people just smiled politely or shook their heads. A few told her to give up. But on Saturday afternoon, as she was packing up to leave, she heard a small, trembling voice behind her. "Excuse me, did you find Dino?" She turned around. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, with dark curls and wide brown eyes, clutched his mother's hand. His face was smeared with tears, his free hand clenching the strap of his backpack. Emily knelt down slowly and pulled the toy from her bag. "Is this him?" she asked. The boy gasped and snatched the dinosaur, hugging it so tight it disappeared into his arms. He burst into fresh tears, tears of relief this time. The mother, pale, exhausted, and startled, looked at Emily with disbelief. You found it." Emily nodded. "I saw it roll off a stroller and tried to catch up, but you were already gone." The woman's eyes welled up. "His name is Oliver. And that toy? It's all he has left from his dad." Emily's breath caught. The mother continued, "My husband, he passed in a car accident last year. Dino was his first gift to Oliver. He sleeps with it every night. When we lost it, I thought he'd never stop crying." For a moment, time stood still on the platform. The noise of the trains, the footsteps, the city's endless clatter, all faded away. Emily didn't realize she was crying too. "I'm just glad it's back with him," she whispered. They hugged, 3 strangers connected by grief, hope, and a stuffed dinosaur. What Emily didn't know that day was that the moment she picked up the toy, her life quietly shifted. The story continued to spread online. More people reached out, not just to thank her, but to share their own moments of loss, recovery, and random kindness from strangers. A week later, she was invited on a morning news show, then a podcast. then a short documentary segment. A small publisher contacted her, asking if she'd consider writing a children's book based on the toy. Emily laughed at first. She was a barista, not a writer, but something deep inside her said, why not? She spent her night scribbling, drawing, remembering. The book, Dino Finds His Way Home, was released the next spring. It became a quiet success, nothing massive, but enough to help her quit her second job. More importantly, it introduced her to an entirely new community, teachers, parents, counselors, and kids who knew what it was to lose something and find hope again. One day, at a book signing in Brooklyn, a little girl came up to her and whispered, I sleep with your book under my pillow. It makes me feel brave. Emily had to excuse herself to cry in the restroom. Years passed. Emily started an organization called the Little Lost Things Project, a non-profit dedicated to collecting and returning sentimental lost items in the city. They also donated stuffed animals to children's hospitals and shelters. The subway moment became a turning point not just for her, but for hundreds. Oliver's mom, Jessica, became one of Emily's closest friends. They hosted story hours together. Oliver, now older, proudly called Emily Auntie M. He still kept Dino, now carefully stitched and preserved, on a shelf by his bed. One day, a college student volunteering with Emily asked, Why that toy? Why didn't you just leave it on the train? Emily thought for a long moment. I think because someone once left me behind, she said softly, and I know what it's like to hope someone will come back for you. That toy deserved to be found. So did I. Maybe. The student nodded, visibly moved. Years later, as Emily stood on stage at a non-profit award ceremony in front of a sea of strangers, she held up the same toy dinosaur, now framed in a small glass box. This little guy, she began, her voice trembling, reminds me that the smallest things we often step over or ignore, can hold the greatest meaning. Picking up this toy didn't just help Oliver. It gave me back something I didn't even know I'd lost: purpose, connection, and a reminder that even in the noise of life, kindness still echoes. The room stood in applause. In that moment, Emily smiled, not the tired smile she once wore while gripping a subway pole, invisible and worn, but a radiant, open smile that came from somewhere whole. She had picked up a toy on the subway, and in doing so, she had picked up her own life.